Hello, and welcome back to the Point Left podcast with your hosts,
Skyler
and Kaylynne.
One of these days you'll remember it and it'll be really cool what
that
you
would
do.
Be so cool if I could remember things.
And you're just like, I extend my hand and you're like, I don't have anything. What is this, a handout? You liberals and your handouts.
Oopsies.
No, the takeaway from this week is that I love women.
I love when women
come together and help me. Did you know that I'm pretty sure, hold on, you can edit this part of the episode out if it's wrong, but I think, so last Monday I had to gather everyone to soothe my broken heart. That was Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I gotta talk about this very carefully.
I know, I'm like, and what about it?
Long story short, remember how we were talking about crushes? Ooh. But, yeah, it didn't work out. C'est la vie. And since then, I feel like it was such a Totally Spies moment where I'm like, girls, assemble. And I'm like sitting like mascara streaked on my couch and like all of my friends come in with like, you got me flowers and like booze and boozy little macarons and
as
like
you do.
And ice cream and everyone got me candy and I'm like, women.
I love a girls group like so much.
Sisterhood.
And I will say I'm like so thankful for like the group that we have out here and like just all of the like incredible people and friends. Like I think we get along so well and like we're all like genuinely like good people and like care about each other and like each other's emotions and stuff. And I have just been like missing, like I have not had a good like girl group since high school. And
I never had one. I've never had one. I've never had one. And, you know, this is the first time that I've ever had, like, a friend group. First of all, this large that hasn't imploded yet.
Yeah.
We're running on almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I've never had more than, like, 4 friends at a time.
Yeah.
And I've been, like a best friend situation. I've been in, like, a 3 best friend situation. And in my entire life, I didn't know that friends were supposed to make you feel this good about yourself. And most of that was me, too, as a kid, just being, like, a bitch and not knowing how to control my emotions, how to communicate, just, like, taking advantage. So, like, I know it was also some of my fault. Yeah, this is
a formal apology to some of my friends in high school. Sorry about that.
Oh, I was so awful. I was so bad. It keeps me up at night.
Oh, my God.
Memories of my high school self. I'm like, crucify her.
Such a quick story, but whenever I tell, this is like I think one of the most horrifying things that me and my friends did as teenagers. So every New Year's, one of our friends had a hot tub and we would always go. I grew up in Iowa, so it's like very, very cold in the winters. So it would be like snowing outside, but you like get in the hot tub and it's like, you know, it's like very hot and it's fun. And so we would like hang out in our hot tub on New Year's and we would literally go around and tell every single person something that they should work on in the new year. And it was literally just a way, like we would be like, yeah, like, you're kind of really annoying, and I think that you could work on, like, but of course it was framed in a way where it was like, yeah, sometimes you just, like, talk a lot about yourself, and, like, it's, you know, I think that you could be more considerate of, like, when other people are speaking, and it was, like, framed like that, but it was still ruthless and, like, very mean, and something that should not have been done.
We are going to make an episode one day about bad friendships. I swear to God. We're going to write that down.
Write that down.
The issues list, I have to bring it up. I can make a whole episode about that.
Yeah.
Again. But, yeah, so my heart's been in a healing place. And you know what? I need heart health.
Speaking of, what a good segue.
I'm always really good at coming up with the segues. If you see, like, my brain while you're talking, I just go, like...
Yeah.
That's me trying
Speaking
to improv.
of, I guess we could call it heart wellness. Wellness.
What a good word.
Oh my God, and what is our topic today?
Is it the wellness industry?
It is the wellness industry. Yes. A cookie for you. So today we're talking about the wellness industry and the many shocking branches of it. So yeah, let's just get into it.
Let's crack on in. So I think one of the main focuses that we're going to be focusing on about the wellness industry is the fact that the big class division amongst it, how it turned from, so the idea of wellness and just health in general, it should be a pretty broad concept along no matter the class of people, pardon. You just want to be healthier, you know, diet, exercise. I feel like that's pretty whatever. But wellness has kind of taken on its own identity as something for the hyper rich to jerk themselves off with.
Yeah.
And there is this weird refusal of the people in the hyper wellness industry to admit that it is a privilege to be that high up. And there's this weird smugness about it that, you know, the only reason that hyper wellness isn't for everyone is just because everyone else is too lazy and it's preventing themselves from doing that. Because, like, yeah, I mean, genetics will help your wealth. I mean, like, you know, fruits and vegetables, superfoods, chia seeds, vitamins made from, like, volcanic dust. I'm sure that'll help everyone, but that's not everyone's price range.
Well, it's a way for people to, like, assert their status. Like, oh, I grocery shop at Erewhon, and I do it because they have, like, organic, healthy, you know, options, and, like, I'm just really concerned about my health. And it's, like, the reason that you're getting your groceries at Erewhon, like, I'm sorry, a fucking apple at Erewhon is not going to be any different than an apple at, like, Trader Joe's. Like, I mean, I'm like, maybe they get them from, like, different sources or whatever, but, like, an apple's an apple, and an organic apple's an organic apple. Like, just go to Ralph's and get an organic apple, and it's the same fucking thing.
We walked into Erewhon together.
Yeah.
And I went for the very first time, and there was a chocolate bar, a 2-inch by 2-inch chocolate square for $1. And I just went, I don't belong here. The second I walked in, everyone turned to me, and they're like, get out. The aisles were body checking me. Like,
The aisles are a crime. Literally a crime. They are fat-phobic. They are literally... the aisles are like, I'm Bella Hadid.
My name
you can't
is Bella
fit.
Hadid.
So you know how in normal aisles you would be able to fit, like, 2 shopping carts so that you can have one person going either direction throughout the aisle? No.
Maybe someone can stop and you can go around them.
Yeah.
No. I don't think there are any carts. If there are carts at Erewhon, it's for, like, the people that really want to, like, show off that they're going to spend, like, $3,000 getting groceries. Erewhon, it doesn't. And literally, we looked at each other, we walked around, we went, do you want to go get Taco Bell? And then we did. And we probably spent less money on 2 Taco Bell orders than it would have been to get 1 jar of, like, super garlic to shove up my ass.
Oh, definitely. A can of beans was literally, like, $4.99. I can go to Trader Joe's and get a can of beans for 80 cents. Like...
We walked in and started pointing and laughing, and then we left. And I think that's about... It was like going to the zoo, except the animals are just very rich people. We would be like, look at this,
It's so weird.
A chickpea.
Yeah, and they have
for $2.
So they have like they have like a, it's kind of like Whole Foods. They have like a hot bar, but they also have like a little cafe area, and then a lot of people might know that they have smoothies. Like, they sell smoothies there. They're like $18 smoothies. And I will say recently I was listening to a podcast episode of, was it Sea Moss Girlies? And they were talking about, like, basically the affordability of, like, wellness and nutrition and such, and, like, kind of how you can, be mindful of your health while also, like, not spending a shit ton of money. And I will say they did bring up kind of an interesting point with, like, everyone hating on the $18 smoothies, where, like, people will make fun of you spending $18 on a smoothie, but then spend $20 on, like, a rum and Coke and, like, not think twice about it. And I'm like, points were made. Interesting. But I think that not the interesting thing about the smoothies, but the thing about the smoothies is, like, a lot of them, they have, like, these superfood ingredients in them or whatever, and it's like a lot of those ingredients aren't actually going to be beneficial to you unless you are, like, using it consistently. Like, you eating, I don't know, getting, like, an antioxidant smoothie, like, one time isn't really going to do anything unless you're, like, implementing it throughout your diet regularly. So, I don't know. It's just a whole ridiculous... Yeah, Erewhon is a scam. Yeah.
I love it that I live in a state where people go, Whole Foods isn't expensive enough. I need a level above Whole Foods. And that's where Erewhon comes in.
When Whole Foods has become too accessible, that people need to create a new grocery store chain to further separate themselves from the poors.
And that's wellness.
That's wellness. So anyway, circling back, something about wellness culture in general is it's kind of like diet culture rebranded. I mean, it essentially is. Honestly, a lot of it is like a rebranded eating disorder. But because wellness is such like a vague term, it's kind of all encompassing. So it like relates to your mental health, your physical health, your spirituality. It also bleeds into like aesthetics and your morals and personal appearance. And it's like, it has so many aspects that like traditional diet culture doesn't, that I think it can like bleed into your personhood so much more. So it's like you get these people who are like obsessed with wellness, and it's not just that they are like oh, I'm just trying to be healthier, like I'm trying to be more mindful of what I'm eating and making sure I'm eating like whole foods and blah blah blah. It's like, oh well, I'm taking care of my spirituality and I'm meditating for 30 minutes every day and I'm going to Pilates classes and I'm doing my skincare routine with my $70 moisturizer,
my 15 steps
and it's just like so much more that it's
Patrick Bateman at that. It's just so much.
It is.
At that point, it's so much effort and upkeep, and what's insidious to me about it is that it's rebranded in such a way where it's like constant betterment. Where like that part of you that wants to be better, like the January 1st comes around and you're like, I want to be better this year. It taps into that feeling of like wanting to improve, and it's idea of like constant, ceaseless, never-ending improvement, but on superficial stuff. Like, and that's where like kind of like yoga comes in, but it's just constantly like, be better. How can I be better? How can I be even more healthy? How can I be more well? How can I be like the next step? And to me, it's just so exhausting. I look at the hyper wellness girlies and I'm just like, one of these days you are going to snap. Like, I see it in your eyes. You can't just drink alkaline water and just like flush your eyeballs with it to prevent pollution forever. Like, something's got to give. Like, do you have a personhood outside of constantly improving and striving and cutting toxic people out of your life that dare say like, hey girl, don't you want to go get a beer with us? And you just go like, I'd rather have my grapefruit juice and like swish it around between my teeth and then spit it out, because that for me promotes my own internalized safety and health, I think. But no, I'll pass. I'll just meditate and annotate my own diary for 20 minutes and go to bed at 7:30 with 10 face masks on. Thanks.
Well, and it's like, with everything else, like, obviously we're not saying you shouldn't be concerned about like your personal health and well-being, but it's like everything in moderation. If you are so obsessed with your wellness that it is bleeding into every single aspect of your life, and that like you aren't able to let go, or you aren't able to like enjoy a cookie without being like, oh, where was the oil in this cookie sourced from? Like,
they only had sunflower oil
at
like my dorm.
Oh my god, I can't believe they put canola oil on my omelet. Like it's just so ridiculous. Like, you don't need to be that focused on the details. And obviously there are certain things, like especially with like chocolate, and like everyone knows the Nestle company is like shit. But there are certain things where it's like, okay, I do think it's beneficial for people to consider like the ethics of how this is being sourced. And, I don't think that's the issue, but the issue is when people are using it as a way to put themselves on a pedestal and separate themselves from other people and look down on other people who either don't have the resources, don't have the time, or simply just like don't care as much. And it truly is a way for people to separate themselves from others and to make themselves like feel better than. And like that's when it's like not okay.
And it's like, okay, honestly, I'll admit that most of my own barriers for like the hyper wellness industry is laziness. Like, could I right now do some sit-ups in the middle of my living room right now every day? Yeah, I totally could. Could I go for walks in the mornings? I could. Could I start journaling? I could. So I'll admit that part is laziness. But my job, I'm so stressed out. I barely have time to get ready for bed. I don't necessarily have it in my wallet to get like sea moss instead of groceries. I try to get fruits and vegetables, but they're not all going to be organic. And, there's just certain roadblocks that I just can't have right now. And it's just this weird another status of hyper wealth, and it is just like, it's a flex, but it's like such a smug, pretentious flex where like, if you're gonna get a Lamborghini and say that I'm poor, I at least know where you're coming from. But if you're gonna like do Pilates twice a day and then oil your hair with like organic rosemary oil and then be like, and I'm bettering myself and I just want the best for you, that's worse and that's meaner to me, and that's another level of like dunking, and that I take that more personal than someone that's just like, you're poor, and I'm like, yeah.
Well, and of course it all circles back to capitalism.
Capitalism. We say, I just know that if anyone watches these videos, they're gonna be like, interesting that you say you hate capitalism and yet you're drinking Starbucks. Curious. I'm very intelligent.
Well, it all circles back to capitalism, and not just in the way that like, obviously like the diet industry and wellness industry is an incredibly profitable industry, but it also like circles back to productivity, and like you are not being a productive enough like cog in the machine, because have you seen those TikTok videos that it's like my 5 to 9 before my 9 to 5?
Those make me want to take a fat nap.
Yeah, and it's like people are showing their routine before work and how incredibly productive they are and how they go to this spin class and then they make this organic smoothie and then they meal prep for the morning and then they get their kids out the door.
They wash their sheets every night.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
And it's like, I do my 15-step skincare routine and all of this, and it's like, oh, well, you're not concerned about your wellness because you're not being productive enough, and if you're not being productive enough, then you're not going to succeed in your career, and if you don't succeed in your career, then you're not going to be able to afford this lifestyle. And it all circles back to just like pushing productivity and a capitalist mindset on us again. And it's like, obviously, all of these things that are taught or that are being said to promote wellness are so fucking expensive. Like we were talking about earlier, the even if you exercise every day, like certain exercises are more attributed to wellness than others. Like weightlifting isn't really a wellness exercise, but like yoga, Pilates, and spin classes are, where it's like, okay, if I'm into lifting weights and I'm doing that daily, like I'm still promoting my own personal wellness, but I can get like a $15 a month, like Planet Fitness membership. But if you take Pilates, well, you're probably spending like at least at the minimum $100, and that's if you take like 2 classes a month. But if you're supposed to take like 3 classes a week, you are spending upwards of like $300 to $500 on your exercise routine. Or if you're even if you don't take spin classes, you own a Peloton at home and you do your Pelotoning in the morning, and like that's like $1,000 bike. Like not everyone can afford that. And there's just like all of these different barriers of entry to reach this ultimate goal of wellness that is so undefined that it's never achievable.
Amen. It's the goop. It's the Gwyneth Paltrow principle of it all, where it's like, it's where hyper wellness meets pseudoscience meets give me all of your money, where it's like, because it's so not quantifiable, you can justify whatever price you want to put on it. I saw, like the Goop vibrational wave stickers, where it's like, we have packed in expert vibrational waves on like a higher level, and if you put these stickers on whatever, that will bring you inner. And it's like, well, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit, but I can't prove that you're wrong. And if you're just making shit up in the sake of wellness, yeah, sure, I'll pay $50 for a pack of stickers to put on my forehead to increase my vibrations. Yeah. It's pulling things out of the air. It's using buzzwords and then turning that into a very highly profitable market. Like you were saying, like even like in a concept of like a juicer, like the juice cleanse, where it's like you juice carrots, you get the most nutrients instead of eating carrots, because that's eating
when literally which juice cleanses are so insane to me, because literally all you're doing is taking the fiber out of the vegetables, so then you're just gonna be like liquid shitting everywhere because there's no fiber in a juice.
I'm sure that's way better. What's better for my gut health? Eating fruits and vegetables and sometimes a piece of bread, or shitting my bed twice a day for the sake of cleaning out my... Which one is going to promote wellness? Explosive diarrhea or eating a cracker with a piece of cheese?
I read an interesting article that has a quote that I want to highlight because I think it will be an interesting segue. So it's by Jen Gunter, And it's called Worshipping the False Idols of Wellness, Charcoal Toxins, and Other Forms of Nonsense That Are the Backbone of the Wellness Industrial Complex.
That is such a good title for anything. I'm hooked.
And so it kind of talks about, like, the risk of the wellness industry and how, like, the wellness, like the idea of wellness is supposed to like promote your health and promote like internal healing or whatever, but it can actually be so much more harmful because, this is the quote, "The placebo effect or trying something natural can lead people with serious illness to postpone effective medical care. Every doctor I know has more than one story about a patient who died because they chose to try alkalized in their blood or gambled on intravenous vitamins instead of getting cancer care." And that idea of like holistic medicine is, of course, like has to do with wellness culture and the wellness industry. And that so many people, I think, again, jumping back to capitalism, I think because so many people realize, especially in America, that like our healthcare system is a profitable system, that they're like, oh, well, the doctors, why would the doctors help me? Because they profit off of me being sick. And if I'm sick, then they're getting paid more. And I think people neglect to realize that, like, although this isn't true for all doctors, and there are a lot of shit doctors out there, I've experienced my own, there are also a lot of people who are very passionate about it and genuinely, like, want to help people. Like, I don't think every single doctor is so insidious that they are truly, like, wanting you to die from cancer. Instead, like, no one wants a patient to die. Like, that is heartbreaking. That is the most heartbreaking thing.
Yeah, my mom is a labor and delivery nurse, so she deals with women giving birth. Holy shit. Like, she has been so much, like, shit and accusations get thrown at her. A couple favorites is basically someone accused her of, like, you know, wanting her baby to die. And my mom was like, a dead baby is, like, number one worst outcome of any labor and delivery nurse. We don't want that. There's a conspiracy going around right now that the only reason that medical professionals and whatever give birth on their backs is because, like, men wanted to look at a woman's vagina stretching, and the actual most natural way to give birth is by standing, but that's not a hot way to give birth. And we were like, wow, I never knew that. I can't believe all my doctors and nurses lied to me. And my mom is just sitting there and she's like, what? She's like, it's instinct to go on your back. It's human instinct to, like, go on your back and like, it is just this weird thing where, and I get that it's a vulnerable situation because giving birth is a very stressful, sometimes traumatic experience, and, you know, you're going to be on edge. Hormones are literally aflame. So you're not always going to be in the right state of mind. My mom has had to, like fight with people because they're just so convinced that my mom and all the medical professionals are just out to get them specifically. And yeah, I think, like, the Goopification that's a good title
of I just, like, health in general is really detrimental because I think that quote is so true that so many people will seek, like, acupuncture, Reiki, or just, like, oh no, I'm gonna take, like, magnesium every day instead of taking my antipsychotics, and, like, that's gonna help me more. And I'm not saying I'm, like, I mean, I don't know, I'm a little granola myself. Like, my mom practiced Reiki, and, like, I'm not against those methods, but I don't think that, like, that should be your only source of healing.
I get that, like, we should have distrust a little bit in the pharmaceutical industry. It's huge. It has billions of dollars. However, there's the idea that, like, oh, I can't listen to my doctors and my nurses. They're trying to sell me something. So I'm going to listen to other people still trying to sell me something. No one is going to offer you acupuncture for free. No one's going to offer you these wellness medicines and vitamins for free. How is that any different than taking advantage of you and your belief systems and wanting to get your money than your average doctor? My sister has chronic pain, and she will ask for Tylenol, and some members of my family, like, scoff and, like, roll their eyes, and they're like, you are addicted to Tylenol, you're addicted to pain. And literally my grandmother will just, like, rub essential oils, like, on our wrists and foreheads, and she's like, there you go, you don't need all of that medicine, you're too knee-jerk to medicine. My mom and my sister is like, I am in so much pain, and then we have to go and get our meds from, like, CVS or something. But I'm just like, there's that knee-jerk of, like, ugh, there goes the chronic pain sister crying again.
I remember, so my I'm just gonna bring up my mother in every single episode, I think, but my mother is schizophrenic. And growing up, she was like now it's very apparent to me that like she had an eating disorder and like obviously other like, I mean, clear like mental health issues.
I think she might have had some mental health issues, I think if
Shocking.
I were to put forth a theory.
Yeah, I think she might have had some really serious mental health issues.
We say laughing.
But she was like deep into wellness culture in like the early 2000s of like again she did like Reiki. She was a massage therapist and she was always like we always had like whole wheat organic bread. Like we could never have like hyper processed foods. Like it was honestly as a child a miserable existence. But she was one of those people. I remember one time I was like having a sleepover for my birthday party and I was in middle school. I think I was in like 6th or 7th grade and one of my friends was on her period and she was having like really, really bad cramps. So she asked me, she was like, oh, do you have any like Advil or anything? We didn't have any in the house. Like we did not have any medication in the house because my mom was like, oh, that's poison. Like that's poison for your body. So my mom was literally like, have her eat a banana. The potassium helps with the cramps. And it's like, part of that might be true. But if your cramps are so bad, like a fucking banana is not going to help.
If I was writhing on the ground in pain and someone said,
I felt
here,
so bad.
have a banana, I think I would, I might go sicko mode. I might do something that would merit me going to jail.
That friend never came back to my fucking house because my mom literally like made her be in pain and she was like, oh, well, I can do Reiki on her if she wants. And I'm like, Mom, this like 11-year-old does not want you to do your energy healing for her like unbearable pain. So I have a very personal relationship with this. But anyway, I have another quote. I have another exciting quote from another really great article. I don't know if anyone has noticed, but basically all of my articles are from the New York Times. And that's because I pay monthly for like a New York Times subscription and I don't want to have to pay for other news sources, so that's why most of my articles are from the New York Times. But so this is an article from the New York Times and it's by Jessica Knoll. It's called Smash the Wellness Industry, Why Are So Many Smart Women Falling for Its Harmful Pseudoscientific Claims.
These titles go off.
They really do. So the quote, I called this poisonous relationship between a body I was indoctrinated to hate and food I had been taught to fear, wellness. This was before I could recognize wellness culture for what it was, a dangerous con that seduces smart women with pseudoscientific claims of increasing energy, reducing inflammation, lowering the risk of cancer, and healing skin, gut, and fertility problems. But at its core, wellness is about weight loss. It demonizes calorically dense and delicious foods, preserving a vicious fallacy. Thin is healthy, and healthy is thin. I like literally goosebumps. So good, so good. But it not only does everything circle back to capitalism, it also circles back to fat phobia. How shocking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, also the part of the weird, like, way to navigate this whole, like, wellness thing is health is already such, like, a battlefield to walk through as a woman, because, like, our health is always used as justification to just be shitty to us. Like, if you want to call me fat, just be like, I'm just really worried about your health. Mm-hmm. If you like have some with cystic acne or you see like pimples, or they're just like, I just want you to be healthier.
Have you tried cutting out dairy? Have you tried this? This worked really well for me.
And I'm just worried about your health. If your vagina doesn't smell like a Bath and Body Works candle, I'm worried about, your lower health. And it's like, you're not worried about my white blood cell count. You're not worried about my blood pressure. You're worried because you're saying that I'm fat and I have zits. Just be upfront. Don't use health as a justification. Mm-hmm. And you're right about, like, in general, health always goes back to, thin.
Typically thin white women. Like, it's just such a, again, it's like the aesthetic of wellness culture is thin white, like, yoga moms.
And it's also, I think another reason the wellness industry for me is so insidious is because, like, it is a very common problem when you have, like, plus size people or people of color that are not listened to by doctors, and there's this like, no, we don't care about that stuff, we can give you the answers. And it can feel very freeing to be like, well, my doctor has been saying for years that I just need to lose weight, and then I'm being over dramatic. And then you have these like this industry being like, no, you're not insane, it's because like you're inflamed and you just need to have these all natural supplements and then you'll get better. It can feel relieving to have like a whole industry of people that seems like they want the best for you, that aren't just going to fat shame you forever. And then, so you're taking advantage of people's lack of being listened to by medical professionals, and you're just selling them pseudoscience to take their money.
Yeah.
It's way more of like you're just taking advantage of disenfranchised people again.
Yes. And I think especially like TikTok obviously is a huge promoter of like the wellness industry. And I've seen so many videos that are like sharing, basically putting in people's minds that they have like these internal bodily issues happening, and like that's why they're feeling fatigued, and that's why they have acne, and that's why they're bloated, and like all of these things. And they're like, oh, I have a super quick fix for that. Like, oh, are you feeling fatigued? Are you I think that your hormones are out of balance and you have hormonal issues, or you have like your gut is inflamed, or like your microbiome is like is unbalanced, and like all of these issues that people would never really think of. And then you watch a TikTok video about it and you're like, oh my God, that's so me. But then these people never actually go to a doctor and get blood testing and get like hormone testing, and never actually see if like that is truly the cause of their problems. So then you get these videos of like, oh my God, this is why like your gut is inflamed. This is why blah, 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 blah. And I found a really interesting, I was looking for an example, and there are so many examples of like diet fixes, or like meals to balance your hormones, or like, you know, all of these things. There's so many examples on TikTok. And I found a specific example, and it's the raw carrot salad. Have you heard of this?
Not yet.
Okay, well, you're about to learn. So I actually hadn't heard of this before, but there are like hundreds of TikTok videos talking about them, and most of them have like tons of views. There's like articles about it. I Googled it because I was trying to figure out if it like was actually a real thing or not. So basically the raw carrot salad, it's like a diet trend perpetuated by TikTok. And the idea is that if you have high estrogen levels, then the raw carrots detox excess estrogen and balance your hormone levels. So the salad is hyper specific, of course. You have to get like raw carrots, and then you like ribbon them, and you mix it with apple cider vinegar. Who's shocked? Refined coconut oil and mineral sea salt, which are just like all ingredients. I mean, other than like the carrots, obviously, all ingredients that are like have been used over and over again to have like all of these magical health benefits that just like really are completely unsubstantiated.
Yeah. Also, that sounds like it would taste like shit.
Yeah. And I thought this was so funny. I was looking at one of the TikToks. That's where I like got the recipe from, and I was looking at the comments, and someone was like, "Can I just eat 2 carrots?" And the person was like, "Yep." So it's like, what's the point? Like, just eat carrots. Just eat a fucking carrot.
I just like pull a full Bugs Bunny and just carry a carrot around like it's a fucking cigar.
So I Googled. I did a little bit of research about like the idea of detoxing excess estrogen, because I'm like, I don't know, those are a lot of like flag words that I'm a little like, okay, what does that like actually mean? And so basically, is the raw carrot salad like good or bad for you? It's fine. I mean, you're eating carrots. It's not bad for you. It can't be bad for you. Yeah, like it's not bad for you. And there's like some evidence that carrots actually can help lower your estrogen, but it's only beneficial in very specific circumstances, because like if your hormones are out of whack, it could be, you know, obviously for like multiple reasons, but the only way that like carrots would help is if that your estrogen levels are high, and not that your like progesterone is low. Because like if your progesterone is low, and that would be making like your estrogen levels comparatively higher. So if that's the issue, the carrots aren't really going to do anything. But if the issue is actually that you have like higher estrogen levels, then it like can kind of do something. But it's kind of funny because according to Melissa Groves Azaro, who's a registered dietitian nutritionist who specializes in hormone balance, fertility, and PCOS, she said carrots aren't even the best vegetable for lowering estrogen. It's about 10th on the list. So there's like a bunch of other vegetables that like, if that's really what you're concerned about, like why like it's just such nonsense it's just it's so ridiculous. But anyway, so when I Googled detox excess estrogen, the entire first page on Google, well, first of all, of course, there's a little like Google shopping banner, where the first thing that comes up are a bunch of expensive supplements and tinctures and just things that are being sold to you, all of which are like $30 and up.
Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah, like none of them are like cheap. Okay, so then once you get past like all the supplements and, you know, shit that they're trying to sell you, and you actually scroll down to like the articles, it's just a bunch of like wellness and holistic medicine blogs. And I did find one on, I didn't go past like the first Google page because most people aren't when they're, you know, doing research on things.
I did my own research, quote unquote, and the research is like the first 3 links on Google, and then you put it in like you screenshot.
Yeah, literally. I did find one. So there was one article from a like medical practice website, which at first, you know, you look at and you're like, okay, this seems like kind of legitimate. And then I was like, wait, why does the name of the doctor, because it's like doctor, I think it was like Dr. Taz or something. I'm like, why does the name of the doctor seem so familiar? And the reason why it seems so familiar is because I had just scrolled past a blog that was called, it was like Dr. Taz, like holistic, I don't know, it was something. So this doctor, I'm not gonna say doctor in quotes because I'm sure they actually have their doctorate, but it's like just because you have your doctorate doesn't mean that like you...
I have my doctorate in English literature.
Yeah, like it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily like mean that much. Anyway, so yeah, so basically, once you look further into the like medical practice website, you quickly realize that it's like a holistic medical practice, and
so it's like Dr. Bronner.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, so you're like, according to Dr. Bronner's skin health, and like, so you're like, oh, cool, Dr. Bronner, what is that? And then you look and it's like the brand of a soap.
Yes. Yeah,
that's so fucking funny.
So this like blog doctor,
I told the blog doctor I was in love with you.
So this blog doctor, they have like their own separate blog or whatever where they're like releasing these articles about like detoxifying your estrogen and like stuff like that. So then when you go to the actual like medical practice and you look at the services that they provide like spa services and acupuncture and like things like that. Like you're not actually going for like a medical consultation. So yeah, basically this whole raw carrot salad thing and like the detoxing your excess estrogen is, shocker, like kind of a scam. And it's just another way for people, again, to like, it's just pseudoscience. It's all pseudoscience. And it's like, oh, if I eat this like very specific carrot salad, then I'm going to be detoxifying my estrogen and like my hormones will be in balance and my life will be fixed.
None of those words are in the Bible.
Yeah. We're just Veggie Tales.
Like after a certain point, you get in such an echo chamber. You just throw words around, especially like detoxifying. Like that's such a nice word, and then you actually take it apart. You're like, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Like, what?
It's just critical thinking.
How?
It's
how would you
critical
detox
thinking.
a human body?
And not to mention, if you are suffering from an eating disorder and you are not getting the nutrients and you're not getting the calories that you need, your brain literally like shrinks. Like your cognitive ability is not what it is when you are like fully nourished, which honestly, this is me totally speculating, but like a lot of these wellness people are undernourished because they are like not taking in the like caloric necessity.
Is that why gym bros like the Andrew Tates of the world lack empathy? It's because their brain literally cannot process it or contain it because they're so busy like only having like a strict eating disorder of boiled chicken once a day that they physically cannot extend their brain power to basic empathetic principles.
That could be part of it. I do think part of it is like them just being men.
Two things can be true, all right?
But yeah, so when I already talked about this a little bit, but like when I finally came across an actual scientific article that was like talking about like detoxifying your estrogen or whatever, I had to use different keywords. I had to be like, is this like detoxifying estrogen like real ? Basically. And when I actually came across a reliable article, yeah, they basically said they're like, this carrot salad, like it's not going to hurt anything, but it's also like it's not necessarily going to help you. So I think this is all rounding out to, like, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to eat, like, a balanced, nourished diet. And while that is easier said than done, because again, the whole like accessibility and affordability of having a balanced, nourished diet can be tricky, that's the best thing that you can do. And it's like this random carrot salad that you're eating with your lunch every single day isn't going to be the miracle cure for like why you're feeling depressed. And if you really think that you have a hormone imbalance, go to a doctor and get actual medical advice instead of self-diagnosing from like a random TikTok and blindly following the habits of like thin white women that you aspire to be.
Yeah, the TikTokification of the the medical world could take up like 5 different episodes, just even like diagnosing like mental illnesses, diagnosing things like autism or trauma responses, just convincing the population at large that they have some sort of anything. But the TikTokification of wellness is very real. And again, like most of TikTok is videos that can romanticize different aesthetics. And then one of the biggest aesthetic that has to do with wellness is like I think the most backhanded compliment that I think you could give someone is that you look so clean. No, the most backhanded compliment is when you walk to a fat person and say you look like you give good hugs. The second is that you look so clean, because it's just, again, like I keep saying the word insidious to me, but so clean is very like, it's that effortless but not really effortless look. So, and again, that has to do with class. So what's more attainable and affordable? Doing like a very thorough 15-step skincare routine and only like inhaling the best of the best, like water, skincare, supplements, whatever, or a $7 concealer to cover up the acne that you have. Concealer in like visible makeup, that's not considered clean. What's considered clean is that like Hailey Bieber glass-like complexion with very monochromatic, elegant looking clothes. And it's just this weird thing where it's like, clean, what a weird thing to say.
It's like an expansion of like the Glossier, like girly.
Yes. It's almost never applied to non-white women, and it's never applied to like flat stomach is clean. Like having like the thin frame and like exposed collarbones and like your hair pulled back, you're like, you look so clean. And it's like, what do you mean by that? And like, to me, like the clean girl aesthetic is like the absence of like human spice. Like my favorite parts about like people is, I hate saying this because it makes me sound like such like a fuckboy. It's like the imperfections are but like crooked teeth and like those little like strings of hair that stick to your forehead when you get really sweaty, and like kind of the frizz up that happens, and like chewed up nails. Like I'm like, oh, you're a human being.
Well, it's like the features that differentiate you from like, I don't know, there's like the whole idea of like Instagram face where everyone is getting like plastic surgery to essentially like look the same.
Clean girl is, I guess, a way to describe it because it's sterile.
Yeah.
Oh
my god, yeah.
It's so colorless, and
yeah, it's all about neutrals. It's all about, yeah.
Mostly, if you're not white, you're wearing white. Your hair is very like, not a hair is out of place. Like everything is very neat and organized and orderly, and it's sterile is the best way that I can describe it. And that has circled back to like being healthy and being clean, and it's just like weird. What a weird thing to just say to someone.
Well, and it's also like the clean girl, like with the clean girl aesthetic, you're using like quote unquote clean products. And now like Sephora, they have like their clean section of like their store and their website. I think a lot of like makeup and skincare brands are really like pushing, they're like, oh, we're like, this is a like certified clean product or whatever. And it's like, what does that mean? It literally means nothing.
It's capitalism taking the wellness words and being like, you walk past it, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I do want clean, all natural,
it's like green
organic
and there
makeup.
Are leaves, and it's like this minimalistic font, and like it's visually appealing, and you're like, oh, it's like natural and blah blah blah. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. To be fair, I've done no research on this, so like maybe there is some type of like clean certification that you can get. But as far as I know, like, I don't think you have to go through any like process of approval to be like certified clean. Like I think it's just another way of branding. It's I don't know, the whole clean thing is so weird, and it's also so shameful.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, if you're not like under this clean girl aesthetic, then you're dirty.
If you don't have the eucalyptus that you got at the farmer's market pinned up to your very clean and polished shower, that you take 3 baths a day and 1 shower in, and then that shower you have like a 15-step like shower routine, and you like, it's just, most of the clean girl aesthetic to me, I just look at it and I'm just, again, it's the same thing with wellness where I'm like, aren't you tired? Don't you ever just want to go ape shit? Like just one day where you want to sleep in.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's truly strange. Real quickly, this is like kind of random, but I don't know if there'll be a more natural place to put it. But just like so briefly, I guess this kind of has to do with like skincare and products and whatnot. But there are so many products that people kind of like blindly use and blindly follow because of their estimated benefits, when there are truly no like comprehensive studies that have been done on like if it actually has benefits over long term. And I think a specific ingredient or product or whatever that I want to talk about is collagen.
Don't even get me started.
And I don't know, I find the whole, because again, it totally goes back to men aren't being pressured to take collagen supplements. They're not pressured to be using this hyaluronic acid collagen serum on their face or whatever. Like it's another way to take money from like vulnerable women who are fearing visually aging. Which is like, yes, we are totally conditioned to do that, and that's no individual person's fault for like not wanting to visually age. But the whole collagen thing is just so ridiculous to me because there's really no research done on like the benefits of collagen, specifically topical collagen. Anything that has collagen like in a cream or a serum or anything that you're like putting on topically doesn't work. Like it literally doesn't work. Another article that I read by Gabrielle Ulloa.
I'll say
Ulloa. Are there benefits to collagen supplements? Maybe, but get ready for a long-term relationship. As for topical creams, Dr. Brow explained that because collagen is produced in the deeper level of the skin called the dermis, which is lower than the epidermis, it's very hard for topical collagen to actually make it there. So not to mention collagen is very expensive. It's a very expensive ingredient. So you're literally like, they're putting it in these creams and there's no benefits. There's no benefits to putting it into a cream. There is like a little research on ingesting collagen and whether that, I think it has benefits with, like bone density and like maybe your like skin elasticity. But again, it's something that like, okay, you can't put it in a smoothie once and it's going to have magical effects. Like it's something that you have to be using over long term. And a lot of those collagen supplements and like powders and stuff, again, are very, very expensive. And also the article said, which I actually didn't know this and I thought was very interesting, that any products marketed as plant-based collagen don't contain any collagen. And like they say that they support collagen production, but the science simply is not there to back it up. So anything that says like plant-based collagen, again, is just another way for companies to put this like branding and terminology on a product that makes you think that it has all of these benefits that it doesn't have.
I just made a connection.
Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, my brain is swelling. Because the wellness industry has a very weird relationship with race. Because, like you were saying about collagen, there is this weird exotification and like weird like envy of the Asian women, specifically Chinese women. I like the first time I ever heard about collagen, it's like, do you ever wonder why Asian women age so gracefully? It's because of these broths and soups that they drink, where it's like, what do Asian women have in their skin that we white women can use? It's a lot of wellness is taking away from a lot of Eastern medicine, like acupuncture, like herbs, teas, cleanses, chakra aligning is taken from a lot of like Indian culture, yoga. It's like this weird exotification of Eastern healing and Eastern medicine. And yet there is this fear of Eastern diet or like any sort of diet that isn't white. So growing up there is a specific knee-jerk, and again, like, you know, you're always having to unlearn racism, but there's this weird connection with a lot of like white families who want to be healthy, is like ethnic food is considered unhealthy. MSG is like the end of all health and creation. Anything that is seasoned properly, like healthy food is boiled, unseasoned food. Maybe some mayonnaise for a little kick, but like different cultures' food and like the seasonings and flavors that they eat, they're like, oh, that's so bad, the sodium, the heartburn, the cholesterol, and yet there is this exotification of healing practices of their medicine, and it's this weird amalgam of when I think of wellness, I think of white culture, because they've taken the part of different cultures that they find intriguing and fascinating, and they've warped it into a very sterilized version of it, where they've like gentrified it, and they've taken yoga and they like, no, but it's not like, it's Eastern healing, but not like the weird stuff, not like the unhealthy stuff, but the good stuff, like the collagen intake and the acupuncture, but not the weird gross food that they, and yeah, it is this weird, like very sterilized, very unauthentic space to exist in.
Yeah. No, oh my God. Big brain thoughts. I was also gonna say, you brought up like the bone broth and stuff. Another thing that the article mentioned was that like collagen supplements are so expensive, and you can get collagen from like natural resources in your food. And one of those is bone broth. Bone broth is a really great way to like ingest naturally occurring collagen. So I mean, yeah, that's kind of all there is to say about that. Do you want to go and talk about the pipeline, or
yes,
okay?
Yes. So I'm just so Jimmy Neutron brain blast right now about the weird relationship with race, because there is a very direct pipeline from wellness granola to just alt-right QAnon. And I noticed this, and then you sent me a podcast that basically confirmed all of this.
Maintenance Phase. I will say Maintenance Phase, if you're not a Maintenance Phase listener, it's one of my favorite podcasts. But they have a really great episode. I'm pretty sure it's literally called like the Wellness to QAnon Pipeline. They have a really great guest. I can't remember his name, but he's like very, very well versed on the topic. So great listen.
I just sat there and was just validated the whole time. I'm like, God, I just picked up on this with my eyes. God, I'm so smart. No, so before I moved to LA, I thought that they were very separate worlds. Not so. In fact, they are so very close with each other. And the pipeline is a very slippery slope. So what I've picked up on, and what apparently is backed up by other scholars on the fact, is that it usually starts with environmentalism, learning about the planet, pollution, recycling, zero waste, that kind of thing. Some people will take like a pit stop by veganism. Not always. That part is optional, but most of this comes from this idea of like general good things, like planet is dying, sustainability is important, fast fashion is bad, pollution is bad, all things we agree on. But there's a little switch flip, and it's like, it's because it's government and big business and big pharma's fault. And once you and that's the kicker. That's the little switch that's like, it's not only that our planet is dying, resist authority. That resist authority is going to be the link. That's going to be like the little switch that you flip to. And not to say that you just take everything that the government and big pharma and big business give you without a second thought, because otherwise you're like evil. That's not what I'm saying. But that little flip in the back of your brain that's like, I want to be healthy, the planet is dying, and I don't trust people with degrees. This is the slippery slope that will lead directly to the QAnon pipeline. And like once we've established that connection between governments and corporations and evil practices, this is when we jump into anti-vaxxer. And that's the perfect like pits. Like if there's a 3-step process, it's wellness, anti-vax, QAnon. Anti-vax and wellness go hand in hand, because again, there is that rejection of medicine, of doctors, of actual pharmaceutical drugs in favor of more natural holistic healing. And you don't want Tylenol, you just want this oil rubbed across your forehead and in between your gums and whatever, instead of actually getting painkillers for your shedding uterine lining. Healthy alternatives to over-the-counter medicine, all natural cleaners, all natural foods, essential oils instead of cancerous penicillin. And then with that, we get into the idea of like all medicine has an agenda. Why don't we heal our bodies with sea moss jelly and krill face masks instead of the suspicious polio vaccine? Which one is more centered on the idea of wellness? This vial of insulin with ingredients I can't even pronounce, or salt lamps and crystals that I can shove up my ass? Which one makes more sense to me? I can't even pronounce all the ingredients in a vial of polio vaccine, but I can pronounce crystals. I can pronounce rose quartz.
I hate the argument when people are like, if you can't pronounce the ingredients, then it's overly processed and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, half of the ingredients is, what's like the scientific salt, like sodium...
sodium chloride.
Sodium chloride.
Speaking of Jimmy Neutron.
People are like, there's sodium chloride in the water, and it's like...
Get out!
Get out! It's table salt. Like, you're fine. You're literally fine.
Yeah, and then, like, once you get into that anti-vax level of crunchy granola, it's like, we just want to live off the land. Then it's usually just the easiest leap to just full-fledged conspiracy theories, like how the vibrations of cell phone towers are giving us brain cancer, all water is polluted by government drones, and really it just takes, like, one Alex Jones rant about water turning the frogs gay and red dye #2 causing autism that just puts you right in the middle of alt-right spaces talking about government conspiracies and anti-Semitic bullshit about lizard people. Like, the hyper-health industry, the Gwyneth Paltrows of the world, they are so rich. Like, we're talking about all this shit is so expensive that they are so far removed from reality that they horse you back into conservatism. And when you call them out on it, like, maybe vibrational healing seminars and clay mask eye drops aren't going to cure my depression, and I'd rather have that money for rent, they snap back into those conservative talking points of like, well, then work harder. It's not that hard to do any of these things. Anyone can do it. Maybe stop spending money on your $10 Starbucks latte and you could afford laser pore removal and Argentinian silk pajamas. Get up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days. Or it's like, it's this weird mirrored version of hyperconservatism talk points. When you're that rich, when you have that much money to just spend on collagen implants and oil pull and like just random shit that you saw on the internet, like, you're so rich, you might as well give it a try. You know, maybe there is no direct line between carrots and estrogen levels, and maybe overly estrogen levels are bad. Why not? You're bored. When you have that much money, you're bored. Why not give it a chance on maybe seeing if carrot salad can cure infertility and reduce inflammation and all the other typical, you know, knee-jerk stuffs. So that's that. And that's, again, like a big weird class divide where, you know, that scene in Knives Out, Knives Out is one of my favorite movies because this family, they make a big point to say, like, this man is a Trump supporter and this woman is like a very hippy-dippy left-leaning one, and this one's very like, you know, screw the government, I don't need any of y'all, and this one's a Nazi. But for some reason, when their money is threatened, suddenly they all come together, and when you know it, they're weirdly all on the same side. I don't know why I thought that was relevant just now. Moving on.
Well, and it's like most of the people who do get funneled into like QAnon ideologies and things like that, obviously like aren't aware of it. Like, it's not like they're going into it and they're like, I'm joining QAnon. Like, it is done in a way that it seeps into your critical thinking. Like, I don't even know how to explain. Like, it becomes something where you're like, oh my god, like, Wayfair is trafficking children, and like, I care about children, and like, this is horrible and nothing's being done about it. And so you come from it from a perspective of like, well, everyone loves children and something bad is being done about children, blah blah blah. But then it's like, the deeper you get into the conspiracy theory, it most of the time links back to anti-Semitism. It's just like it's done in a way that can be confusing.
Yeah. Where
you don't fully understand what you believe in.
There is this weird, not weird, but you hear the like vile, vitriolic horseshit that QAnon will be spilling, and it'll be like, these are very hateful people, that you would just assume that to get to that point, you must also go into it as like, you're right, I also hate people, so I will join QAnon. But this pipeline is overly caring to the point of desensitization, where like you go into that crunchy granola lifestyle because you want the best for your family and your kids. You want the no chemicals cleaner so they don't have like lead poisoning when they're 50 and vote for Republican. Like, you want the best for your kids. You don't want them to have overly dyed fruit snacks, and you want them to be able to, you know, like drink water from a like, you want that crunchy granola lifestyle out of a sense of caring. You want to help the planet. And so that is a way of overly leaning into the caring, the more like the bleeding heart way to QAnon. And then you're like, I've uncovered these lives, and for the good of humanity, I distrust government and big pharma and big business and any government leader that tells me what to do through the caring of other people. And once you get to that point, it's so hard to see that you have joined arm in arm with people who joined to hate, when you joined out of love, basically. And you don't realize how far you've gotten, because the pipeline that got you there was laid in good intentions. What's that quote, that like the path to hell is lined in good intentions?
Yeah.
The hard thing about conspiracy theories is that there's always going to be a little bit of truth in it. That's what makes it stick. Like, we probably don't know that it's really good for us to always have cell phone towers, so part of your brain makes sense. You're like, oh, that makes sense, yeah. That might be why there are more increasing in cancer numbers, whatever. And it's like, do we not know that there have been terrible environmental practices that are probably going to trickle down into our food? You're like, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And once you feel like, you know, the veil has been lifted on reality, you just think you're so smart. It's hard to like really be aware of the sources of the people that are telling you this information, that it is good to distrust the government. And that's approved by me. Distrust the government. But when it actively impacts the people around you, that you distrust advice from people who aren't Gwyneth Paltrow, that you distrust advice from people who aren't feeding into your TikTok bubble, that's when I feel like you need to be aware of where you're getting your information and lead it down the logical conclusion of, wait, is this anti-Semitic actually? Is believing that the world is run by a few powerful people, is that ringing any alarm bells in your brain? Come back a little bit. Yeah.
I guess to round this all out, this is kind of, I don't know, I to end things on a slightly happier note.
For the sake of wellness.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I do think we all should be somewhat concerned about our overall health and well-being. Obviously not in an obsessive way, and not in a like commodified way. So what can we, you know, what are things that we can do that will like actually increase our wellness, that don't cost money, or that can be shifts as a society that we make. One of those things that I think would be huge is implementing a 4-day work week. There have been so many studies on how beneficial that is, on how like the same amount of work can be done, and you know, regulating that like work-life balance and work-life separation. Obviously that's not something that can be done on like an individualistic level. It has to be done on a broader, you know, societal and honestly governmental level. But like that would be a way that like we could all be better. We could all be healthier if we didn't have to fucking work as much. You know, a lot of people I think are seeking like convenient cures to just ailments of the human experience, like anxiety, acne, fatigue, bloating, like so many of these things honestly are just like kind of unavoidable.
Parts of life.
It just comes with being a human. Like sometimes you're gonna be tired. Sometimes you're not gonna get as much sleep as you usually do, but it's like taking like an activated charcoal supplement isn't going to fix that. Like what's gonna fix that is getting 8 hours of sleep, drinking water daily, you know, daily movement, like things like that can actually benefit your well-being and your mental and physical and emotional health. And I think obviously it's easier said than done. Totally easier said than done. You know, another issue with like the wellness industry is that it's completely inaccessible to people who have jobs, who have kids, who have all of these things. Like if you don't have a nanny, if you don't have the money to go to Pilates, if you don't have the money for organic food, like if you don't have the time to fucking exercise, that's not going to be a priority for you. If you are too concerned about having heating in your home, you're not gonna give a fuck about like going on my morning walk. Like, you know, every it's like the hierarchy of needs. Like sometimes things are more important than how thin you are, or than, you know, how like there are certain things that unfortunately are unavoidable in life, and like that sucks and needs to be changed, and obviously is something that like everyone should have access to these things. Everyone should have access and the ability to have daily movement, to eat healthy things, to have clean drinking water. Everyone should have access to those. But I think by like shaming people who don't, that's obviously not helping anything. And yeah, I think overall, the point of what seems to be all of our podcast episodes is make sure you are thinking critically. Make sure you are considering the nuance of topics and of like ideas that are being presented to you. You know, don't just like watch a TikTok and be like, oh my God, that's so true. Like maybe like I mean, I get plenty of information from, like, I'm a TikTok girly. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I do get a lot of information from
indoctrinated.
TikTok. Yeah. But it's like, okay, if you see a video from TikTok, you know, make sure that like you maybe do a little deeper research on it and see if that's actually something that would be beneficial for you. And especially if it has something to do with your health. Again, not everyone has healthcare. Not everyone has access to just like go and see the doctor. So sometimes you do have to like self-medicate out of necessity, but like just being cautious of that. And I think if you really genuinely think that like your hormones are, you know, out of balance, or you have like these other ailments that won't be fixed by what like you that need like an outside fix, you know, go see a doctor. Like see if that's actually something that needs to be fixed, or if it's just like, oh, I'm a little bloated because I ate fries last night, you know.
And for me, what helped me is just real, like I walked around a wellness fair once. I was invited to it, and just seeing all of these booths, and I was like kind of getting swept up in it because, you know, I'm a sheep. I'm a little sheepy. Bah. And then I realized that like it's just, you're just selling me an idea. Like I got to play pretend. Like I would go to the to the farmer's market with my like reusable bags and my like glass mason jars, and go to like a plastic free spice store, and then I would have eucalyptus hanging in my shower, and then I would just have this hyper clean house with white, like, and then I went like, so this is just an idea, a concept that I can retreat into. It's just an aesthetic. And once I kind of like picked up on that, I was like, and would I even really want my life to be like this? Sure, I want to be healthier, I want to have more stamina, but like what's helped me is realizing that like picking up on when I'm being sold something. And I think if you're gonna go in full, you know, conspiracy mode of like anti big business and be like, they're trying to, that itself is selling you something. I feel like the easiest way to free yourself from the shackles of big business is like have those little titters that pick up when you're like, I'm being sold something. You are selling me an idea. You're selling me a concept, that's something that can only be achieved if I buy X, Y, and Z. That's a scheme.
Yeah.
You're scheming on me. On me? With no wallet? Why not anyone else? And that's helped me the most is that. And you know what? Really rounding it back to the very beginning before we even brought up the topic, what's helped me is just like changing my environment. That's going to be way harder for most people, but like I feel like I've surrounded myself with really good people, and that has helped me in my journey and my mental whatever and my view of myself tenfold, is just surrounding myself with good people, putting myself in a situation where I feel comfy and secure of myself.
Yeah, I think I love the sentiment of like surround yourself with people who like you admire. Because I think obviously like when you're in school and people talk about like peer pressure and whatnot, like it can be thought of as something that's kind of silly, but like it really is something that's really accurate. And I think a lot of people like you pick up the habits of your peers, and if you are surrounding yourself with people who are you know, like constantly drinking, constantly like not really caring about their well-being, constantly like making bad decisions, like you are then going to be more likely to do those same things. And obviously, like, you know, don't go and cut off all your friends or whatever, but
Point
like
and Left podcast recommends that you isolate yourself, move to Guam, change your name, tell no one.
But I also think something that's really important is like diversifying the people who you are friends with and who you talk to and who you have conversations with. Like, it's so important to have discussions with people who come from different backgrounds than you, because often they'll bring a completely different perspective. And obviously, like, listening with open ears and really processing what people are saying and not getting defensive. So many people limit themselves from personal growth because they don't want to be wrong. And it's like, it's okay to admit that you're wrong. It's okay to be like, oh my God, I was taught this way growing up. And like, now that I have expanded my horizons and I'm like talking to people with different experiences, I can reflect and I can realize that that is not like the one way to do things. That is not the one way to like perceive things. And I think that's really, really important. Anyway, yeah, let me get off my soapbox.
We were like, oh, maybe this will be a funny one. No, we've each gotten on our separate soapboxes and then gotten off. We're like, no, your turn. And then you sit on your soapbox and you got off and you're like, no, after you.
I just think it's like such an interesting topic, and like especially someone who like, obviously I grew up with a parent who was like very like indoctrinated into the whole idea of wellness culture before it was like this huge trend.
So many granola family members of mine.
Yeah.
So many of them
And
that are
also-
going to feel called out by this episode.
Also someone who like suffered from orthorexia when I was in high school. Like I was very much of the mindset of like, oh no, I'm being healthy. Oh no, I'm being clean. I'm eating clean. I'm like restricting my calories. I'm not eating that cookie because that cookie has corn syrup in it and that corn syrup's going to give me cancer and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think having come from those experiences, like this makes this a very interesting and like personal topic. And it makes me really frustrated when I see people who are like so deep in it and you're just like, you just want to shake them. Because you're just like, no, like, just like,
wake up, sheep.
wake up. You're like, seek other resources. Like,
Seek help.
Seek help. But like, you know, just think critically about things. Like,
Critical
I'm
thinking
begging
skills.
you.
Game
I'm
one.
literally begging you. Yeah.
I'm on my knees. Please, baby girl.
I think that's going to be the end
Yeah.
of this episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. I think this was a good one. I think,
Yeah.
you know, got some stuff off my chest.
Yeah. And then actually, fun fact, there's a bonus part of this episode where we'll just like vibrationally scream into the microphone. That is going to be a $309 upcharge, but
Yeah.
that will cure some stuff. That will actually help you get rid of the guy you're in love with. That will help you.
It's gonna make you instantly rich. We're gonna send Aloe Yoga PR packages your way.
Yep.
And make sure that you have all of your crystals nearby.
And your gut, so healthy. What
Yeah.
part of your gut? The gut part. The gut part.
Yes.
Did we say $399? I meant $55.99, and you'll know this because I am a doctor.
Yeah. And that's just for the experience. If you actually want it to work, that's another $1,000. So yeah, and you can check that out on our Patreon. No, I'm kidding.
The Patreon we don't yet have.
That was all a joke if you can't tell. If you weren't using your critical thinking skills.
Game one, please.
That was all a joke. Anyway.
Point and laugh.
Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys were thoroughly entertained and, I don't know, that learned something maybe.
I hope you learned something from this.
Yeah, I hope that we can be your peers that you admire and that you surround yourself with.
You're like, take everyone's word and at face value, except ours.
No, because we're right.
Because we're right.
Correct.
And I will not admit anything else.
No. Okay, anyway. Yeah, thanks so much for listening. And we love you. And
I love you a lot.
And goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.